Hi, in this clip we'll learn how to create a pie chart. Pie chart. I'm sure you've seen pie charts all over the place. You see them in newspapers, on TV, in ads, anywhere that they want to get a message across. So it's a really nice way to represent your data. So I'm going to show you how I make a pie chart on the left, and then later on the right, you can try making your own pie chart with a problem, and I'll post a solution. So let's get started with my first example problem. A survey asks students what mode of transportation they normally use to get to school. And the survey looks like this. You can see 10 people, 10 students said they bike to school, 15 said they walk to school, 9 take the bus, and 6 are lucky enough to have a car to go to school. Create a pie chart to display the data. Okay, that's not a bad idea. But how do we do that? What's the first step to get started here? Remember, a pie chart is that circle that has a bunch of wedges cut out of it, one for each category. But how do we know how big each piece of the pie is supposed to be? Well, that's the first step. We need to make a little table to help us figure that out. Here's my table. I made a table that says mode of transportation, number of students, and then we're going to find the central angle. And that's how big each piece of the pie should be in this column here. So mode of transportation, well, the first one we have is bike. And then we have, looks like, walk. Those poor souls that have to walk to school in the winter. Uphill both ways, I know. And then we have bus and car. And I have an extra row that I'm not going to use. Number of students, we'll just fill in what we see there. 10 students bike, 15 walk, 9 take the bus, and 6 take a car. Now I kind of lied. I said we weren't going to use this bottom row. We do actually need it to compute the central angle. This will just be the row for the totals. And we need the total number of students that voted. Well, how many total students do we have? Add those numbers up. 10 plus 15 plus 9 plus 6 gives us 40 total students. And we need this number for this column. And here's how we use it. To find how big the pie piece should be for students that bike, we'll take the number of students that bike, which is 10, divide it by the total students, and that's going to give us a percentage. Then we'll times it by the number of degrees there are in a circle. Do you remember how many degrees there are in a circle? 360. And that answer will give us the angle of the pie piece for biking. For this column, if you want to use your calculator, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. I'll just show you that the pie piece for students that bike will be 90 degrees wide. And then I'm going to repeat the same calculations all the way down. So for example, for walking, we'll have 15 divided by 40 times 360, and it will give us an answer 135 degrees. And we'll just continue that step for the remaining two. I found that the bus piece of the pie will be 81 degrees, and the car piece, well, that's 6, so it should be the smallest pie piece, and it is. It'll be 54 degrees. And in total, you can do a little check here. All of these should add up to 360 degrees. If all your angles don't add up to 360 degrees, well, it means you're going to have a big space left over in your pie, and you don't want that. So it turns out in this case, all the angles do add up to 360. So it's good. We'll have a complete pie chart. Okay, now it's on to drawing the circle. Here we've got our empty pie. I guess it's just the crust, and we need to add all of the filling. Now I've used the computer to help me draw the circle, but I guess at home, if you're on paper, you could trace a pop can or a soup can, or if you have something that's a circle, just trace it. Unless you're a really good artist, you can draw a circle. I can't. What you want to do first for the filling is to find what you think is the center point of the circle, and all of our angles will branch out from there. So I'd say that's roughly the center right there. Now the first angle I see in my table is biking. It's 90 degrees. So I'm going to make a 90-degree wedge, just like this. I'm going to draw a straight line up to the top of the circle, and then a horizontal straight line to the side of the circle. And there is my 90-degree angle for biking. Now we just continue that trend. For walking, we need to make a 135-degree angle. So starting at the center point, if I were to draw a straight line down, that would be a 90-degree angle again. But I need 135, so I'm going to angle it probably till about there. That should be about 135 degrees. So let's continue with the bus. Starting in the middle, I need 81 degrees. Well, that's close to a 90-degree angle. I'd say that would be about 90 degrees. So I'll just drop it down a little bit more until I've hit about 81. Probably something right about there. If you have a protractor at home, I'd recommend you use that to find the angles yourself, and it'd probably be a little more accurate. So by default, what's left over in this section should be for car, or 54 degrees. Next, well, the pie is all cut up nice, but it's looking pretty boring. It's pretty empty. So let's add some color. We'll just take some markers and shade in each section with something different. Let's color in the section for walking, and then bus, and finally the car piece. And there we go, it's all colored. Let's give each piece a label so that people reading it know what they're looking at. This piece we'll call bike. Then walk, and we'll just make our way around the pie, giving labels. Bus and car. It's also a good idea to label the size of each piece. So for example, 10 students bike. So right inside the piece we could write 10, and we'll continue that all the way around. This just makes the pie chart a little more useful for people to look at. They know exactly how many people voted for each category. And last, we'll just add a title so that the reader knows what they're looking at. My title is just mode of transportation. And voila, this is a finished pie chart. So remember, the two most important steps are to set up a table to find your central angles. And to do that, you just take the results of each category and divide it by the total. So we had 10 over 40. And then the next important step is to try and make your angles as accurately as possible. If you need to use a protractor to map out 135 degrees for this piece like we did, that's great. Go ahead and do that. Okay, let's get you to try practicing your own pie chart. Let's see if you can make a pie chart for this problem. A survey asked students to name their favorite sport. And we have a survey that looks like this. 6 students said tennis, 15 said football, 10 said basketball, and 9 students said hockey was their favorite sport. And you're being asked to create a pie chart to display the data. Okay, so try that out by first making a table to find the central angle, and then draw your pie chart. And I'll show you what the chart looks like when you're ready. And here you are. We found that the angles were 54, 135, 90 for basketball, 81 for hockey, and they all add up to 360 degrees, which is good. And then our pie chart looks like this. We have all the labels, and we have a title, favorite sports, and we put the numbers for each wedge.